I think as an angel investor, it's really, really important to network. If you look at the studies, it shows that most angel investors, they look at 30 to 40 companies before they choose one to invest in.
Welcome to She Invests. Join us every week for conversations focused on the growing number of female angel investors, the real unicorns. You'll hear from existing female angel investors, VCs, and fund managers on their investment thesis. From deal flow to exits, they will share the best practices that contribute to their success. Female angel investors will be equipped with the tools and resources to confidently activate their capital in order to make an impact in their community and the global economy. With your host, active angel investor and founder of Hera Angels, Dr. Sylvia Ma. Today we have the wonderful Amy Chang, who is an active angel investor who adds so much value to our San Diego innovation ecosystem because of her wonderful corporate, financial, and entrepreneurial background. She is now the active CEO of Delta Nutrassentials, which we're going to go into that later on, but it is a consumer health supplement company. But she was previously at AMN Healthcare for about 8 to 10 years. So that corporate aspects of her background is just a wonderful asset that she brings as an angel investor. So she was at AMN when the AHS market cap grew from 220 million to over 1 billion. So really great dynamic aspects of being part of that corporate culture. But before that, she was actually a strategy manager at Mitchell Madison Group. So really neat background about strategy consulting and bringing together those aspects of corporate and entrepreneurial and financial aspects of growing a business. She is also a member of multiple angel groups, including our very own Hera Angels, a female angel group in San Diego, but she's also actively involved in other angel groups. And what I love, too, is that she's also giving back to the community. I love that about you, Amy, that you are involved in homeless ministries at the Rock Church in Point Loma. And she's previously served as both a foster youth mentor and a foster parent. So very neat that you're so involved with the community and then also the community of the startup world here in San Diego. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks, Sylvia. I was at AMN Healthcare. It was actually for 14 years, if you can believe that someone stayed in the same place for so long. But it was a fantastic career path for me there. And, at some point, there comes a point in time where sometimes you feel like, okay, in order to grow, I have to go. And so, I loved my colleagues. I loved the work that I did. But, when I finally went, it totally opened up a new chapter in my life that was sort of unanticipated, but has been terrific. And so sometimes it's really great to go out there on a limb and take a chance.
I love that about you. I think that over the years, we have had coffee conversations all the time. And I love that story about how you've really taken that risk as an angel investor. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Absolutely.
What kind of made you first start thinking about, hey, I can be an angel investor and I can actually make an impact into this ecosystem that we have here?
It's funny because a little over 2 years ago, I became an angel investor for the first time. It was completely unanticipated because up until that point, I didn't even know about angel investing. I was not familiar even with the term. I didn't know what it meant to be an accredited angel investor and that there were even qualifications around it. I had no idea that this whole sector of investing even really existed. I'd never thought about it before. And a really good friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, came to me and presented me with an opportunity to invest in a startup company. And, I had never thought about it, and I took a look at it. It seemed like a good opportunity, and I made an investment. And then I thought, that wasn't that hard, and maybe I could, do more. But it really changed the way I thought about investing strategy and even just the world of opportunities that are out there. But it was literally that first investment that set me on that course. And I thought, if I'm going to become an angel investor, I better take this seriously because it's one of the most risky asset classes that's out there. And given that, I thought, well, I better be, methodical about it, and I better be disciplined about it so I can make good decisions. So, I set on this path to learn astutely about it and try to become, a good angel investor.
Wonderful. What was that like when you made that first investment in that company? Because a lot of times that's where that click happens. I know when I made my first investment, I called up my mentor, who's 37 Angels founder, and Angela Lee, and she said, "It's really, how do you feel about this investment based on our careers? I mean, your career basically allowed you to make the best decision possible on that investment." So that first time that you invested, that first kind of click, how did that feel? What were the things that made you say yes?
I probably wouldn't even have paid attention to it, except that it was, an opportunity brought to me by uh, a good friend of mine who I have a lot of respect for. He's a very intelligent person. He actually himself had been an entrepreneur. He'd had 2 exits himself in his lifetime. And so, it's someone who I really respected. I think one of the hardest things, especially for women, about becoming angel investors is, we kind of didn't grow up thinking this way. And we, are a little bit less, or we're a little bit more risk averse sometimes, I think, as women. And so we have to really wrap our brains around the deliberate choice to take on a little bit more risk, hopefully for, greater return and reward. But we don't always think about it this way. And there are a lot of things that we can do in our own lives so that we can lay a foundation so that we can take on a little bit more business risk in our lives. One example is, I was having a good career at AMN. I was, very happy there. But I think, when I look back on my lifetime, what was I saving money up for, right? Like I start thinking about that, and I realize that, was I saving for retirement? Yeah, I probably was. I mean, I want to retire. It's definitely a goal of mine. But I think more than anything, I was probably my entire life, I was saving up so that I could maximize the freedom and opportunities that I might have, going forward. And so to me, the freedom and ability to be an angel investor, I didn't know it at the time, but I think I was sort of saving up for that. Because, I was trying to lay a financial foundation for myself. I was able to actually, leave AMN Healthcare, even though I had a great career there, and go on to the next step in my career and take a little bit of a gamble. And so, but it's because I did things to lay my, my financial foundation, and I had to put myself, in that place. And it also didn't hurt that, I spent about 20 years studying, strategy. So I think that also equipped me to have a little bit more confidence in having a business mind to, discern what might be a good opportunity and a good return.
Yeah, I love how you say that, because that's one of the reasons why some of the corporate ladies who do leave corporate or still are in the corporate landscape become angel investors, because they know that strategy. So what are the transferable skills that you learned as a strategy consultant or strategy manager, whatever you kind of went through that aspect of your career that transferred as being a really awesome angel investor? Anything around there?
It's interesting because when you do strategy in-house for a corporation, the company is always making decisions from an M&A perspective around, what companies they would want to acquire. Because in that sense, anytime you acquire a company, you're making a big investment wholeheartedly. And, so I'm accustomed to, thinking about things. It's really important. I think angel investors pay a lot of attention to milestones in a startup company, because they're constantly looking to see how far has the entrepreneur, what kind of traction and progress have they been able to make, because every time they hit one of those milestones, it de-risks the whole situation, and so that you maximize the probability that that particular investment opportunity can yield a very good return. When you look at when you look at most angels angel investors' portfolios, they've done studies around this. They say that, for every 10 investments that an angel investor makes, about 7 of them will fail. There might be one that returns your capital, and then there might be 1 or 2 that are, home runs. And those home runs have to be a success to the point where it overcompensates for, the 7 companies in your portfolio that didn't make it. Diversification becomes a key strategy around being an angel investor. Many people say you want to have a minimum of at least 10 investments in your portfolio, but really, 20 is even better. And so it's good to have a goal around diversification, not only in number, but potentially in industry as well. Although some others would say that it's better to only invest in industries that you understand very well. And so, you can look at diversification in all different ways, but it is important to diversify.
Perfect. So what I heard with that is that transferable skills as a corporate strategist to as an angel investor is de-risking that investment decision. Milestones are important. Diversification of that portfolio is important, and also needing to know that industry really well.
Yeah, I would add another one, which is just the founder's ability to make progress. There's a huge difference between a founder who, has a great idea and is working on it, but has not commercialized it yet and has not even earned a single dollar of revenue yet. There's a huge difference between that founder and somebody who, has at least generated revenues and, figured out a way to commercialize something and been able to generate revenues. I can even see a difference, in terms of looking at it that way. It feels like the companies who, have not commercialized yet are getting close to it. They just always seem to be on the edge. And so, one major way of de-risking is to, whether or not they've got revenue generation. And then you start to look at other things like, okay, well, is this scalable? What are the chances of it growing profitably? Can they get to break even? I mean, so there's a whole host of other questions that come into play.
I love all those questions. So it seems that the investments that you've made, have they been within that aspect of, let's say, seed investment and not really pre-seed? Is that where you feel the most comfortable?
I feel the most comfortable with opportunities where, they've already generated some revenue, but there's some kind of catalyst moment right now where it makes sense for them to be fundraising, and there's a huge opportunity to capitalize on that. Oftentimes, they've already commercialized a product, but they just signed, some kind of huge deal, like a partnership with either a big name or just a leader in that industry that can really be a huge catalyst for their growth. And they need to raise money, for example, to provide the working capital so they can meet the obligations of that particular contract. So that would be an example of a great catalyst or good timing to look at something. Another catalyst point in time might be where, for example, they've commercialized something, but now they've really gained traction, and from a marketing perspective, they're confident about their customer acquisition costs. They know exactly, what the next customer is going to cost, and they have high confidence that they can, get that customer because they've just spent a lot of time optimizing their marketing. They understand their metrics very well. They understand the mechanics of marketing and their business. And now it's time to fuel and accelerate the growth. That might be, another example of a good catalyst moment. And so I think investors are oftentimes, looking for that, because it's like, well, why do you need money right now as opposed to 2 months ago or as opposed to 6 months from now? Because investors don't want to feel like, oh, I'm just putting money in, so you can get paid a salary. It's like, no, it has to be like a catalyst moment that is really going to fuel the growth of your company.
I love that thought process of the catalyst. I also see angel investors as being the next catalyst. So you have this catalyst moment. I love how you phrase that. But then that angel investor becomes the catalyst for that next movement, correct?
Sometimes that can happen because sometimes there might be angel investors who have, contacts within that industry that can be very valuable to a founder, and they're more than happy to make that introduction. Sometimes they bring knowledge and expertise that can be very helpful to a founder or an entrepreneur, and so I think sometimes that can really help a lot.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Whenever I talk to entrepreneurs, we have angel access hours at Hera Angels, in that money is money, but money with that catalyst, that network, is so important. And that's why, going back to that idea of investing and getting deal flow from a certain industry is important, because you've basically been involved in that industry, maybe through corporate or yourself, or a buyout that you had as an entrepreneur, and that industry so well, so you can catalyze that startup into that next step for them.
Mm-hmm. Or also, in the future, connect them with the right players that could be strategic buyers or exits for that company.
I love that, because that actually goes back to what we were talking about way a long time ago, is that merger and acquisition asset that you bring from corporate. That's why you can maybe walk your entrepreneurs and your founders through that.
Yeah, because it's smart for an entrepreneur to start thinking even early on in advance about a certain number of years out. What does my company need to look like in order to be an attractive acquisition target? And that says a lot about, like, okay, so what moves do I need to make in the meantime in order to fulfill that, what that looks like.
Wonderful. Yeah. And that aspect of growing your network and as an angel investor, and really understanding who can help the portfolio companies that you have to really get that catalyst moment, or, like you said, down the road, make even more connections. I love that you're involved in multiple angel groups. Can you talk to us a little bit? I know about Keiretsu Forum, and I know about Wharton Angel Network, but can you talk about why you are involved with them a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. I joined those two groups mainly because I got to know them, and I just genuinely like the peers in that group, and so I decided to join. There's another big group in town, also called Tech Coast Angels. I've gotten to know quite a few people in Tech Coast Angels, but by then I'd already joined two other groups, and I thought, oh, I don't, and then also being part of the Hera Angels group, I just sort of felt like, okay, I don't need to join, a fourth group, but I do, like the people that I know there. And so I think as an angel investor, it's really, really important to network. And I say that because if you look at the studies, it shows that most angel investors, they look at 30 to 40 companies before they choose one to invest in. And, it does make sense to, look at many, many opportunities before you decide which ones you want to make an investment in. And it does take time to, get to know these different opportunities, but you also want to be able to have enough deal flow so that you're looking at many, many opportunities. So that's one reason, is because you want to be plugged into what opportunities are out there to invest in. The second reason, and I think this is really important, is that we learn a lot from each other. I read some books about angel investing. My favorite one is called Angel Investing. It's by David Rose and Reid Hoffman. There's some others as well. So I learned from reading, but really I learned the most just from talking with other angel investors. There's one angel investor in LA who I consider to be a mentor of mine. I've actually never met this person in person. One day I want to meet him in person, but we talk on the phone all the time. This person has invested in 90 companies throughout his lifetime. And so, being able to even sit in on phone calls and listen to the kinds of questions that he asks when he is talking to companies is invaluable to me. And so I highly recommend that, we as angel investors talk to each other, and because we learn so much from each other.
I learn from you all the time. We've had wonderful meetings, and I learned so much because all of us have our own risk tolerance and our own networks and our own industry-specific assets and knowledge. So we all learn from each other. So I hear that the value that the organizations bring to the angel investor is one, deal flow, as you said, and the other one is that we can learn from each other. What about the entrepreneur? Because a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they said, okay, should I go pitch to these groups, or how do I get involved with an angel by themselves, or is it better to go to the group? How do you feel about that? What's the value to that entrepreneur?
I think the entrepreneurs can pursue both paths. There are certainly many people out there who are angel investors or who, invest, maybe not as frequently, but they do make investments and but hey, they're really busy doing other things, right? And so there's, not all angel investors are, hanging out in angel networking forums. So I think it's good to pursue both paths. And I think if you're, pitching to a whole room full of angels, I think it certainly is an opportunity to, to get to know, many angels all at once. You definitely want to show up prepared though, because what you don't want to show up is you have a whole room full of angel investors and, your pitch doesn't go very well. And then, all of a sudden they, start, what one person's opinion starts to influence the entire room, right? And I'm not saying that always happens, but you certainly want to do a good job if you're going to go in there and pitch. So be sure to be prepared. Practice a lot.
Yeah, I love that. So the preparedness of that entrepreneur needs to have a good pitch and also be able to perform well as well. Because as soon you can have the greatest pitch deck, right? But if you can't perform correctly and then answer the right questions, it can go down a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down. So what other things would you tell entrepreneurs to get ready for, let's say, a pitch at a group that maybe you're involved in?
I think if you ask most angel investors what they look at the most, I mean, we look at all sorts of things, but the one thing that is completely a deal breaker I think for most angel investors is that they have to have confidence in the founder. They have to believe that this is the founder who can make this happen and without a doubt can execute, and that this person is someone of the highest degree of integrity, and also someone who, is coachable. And so I think, and I've heard this from so many angel investors that is, the founder is a deal breaker. If you have a track record of success as an entrepreneur, you've had previous exits and you've been able to show a track record of success, even if you've had a failure, they still consider that to be, great experience to have because you learn so much from that, right? But they're definitely looking at your track record, and they're also looking at who your team is made up of, and, do you have all the right team members that you need in order to execute on this? So they, but they're definitely looking at, the founder. Can this person do it? Is this the right person?
So can you talk a little bit about how you have personally, if you want to, talk about how, let's say, one of the shiny, bright founders that you've been in contact with that you invested in, why would you invest in them? Just a story about them.
Yeah. So a recent investment that I made was in a company that is it's a fashion apparel company, which is a highly competitive space, right? And so, at first I didn't even want to invest in this space because I know how competitive it is. But that being said, it's an industry or market size of huge magnitude, right? So that's something that investors look for is there. You have to be able to generate enough revenues for it to matter. And so it's clear that apparel is a huge industry, but it's so competitive. I mean, everyone wants to be in it, and but this particular founder, got my attention, and as I dug deeper, I realized that this is actually someone who is, a very, very good designer, but she's also understands the mechanics of manufacturing. very, very well and manufacturing overseas. And some of the things that she's doing in her apparel line, it's called dual toned. In her apparel line, it's technology that she uses in manufacturing some of this apparel that actually doesn't even exist in the United States, right? I mean, we think that in the United States we're always more advanced than every other country in the world, but there are certain cases where we're actually not. And she actually knows how to manufacture certain things or get certain things manufactured in a way that you can't even do here in the U.S. So, not only is she, just a fantastic designer, understands the pulse of her customer, but she's actually just really good and savvy at the manufacturing aspect, and she has business acumen, right? So to me, those are all the different talents that you would dream up in a founder, but that in the apparel industry can be actually rare. So, at that point, and then so I invested in it, but then she had a catalyst moment where I actually put a little bit more in because the catalyst moment was, she signed a huge contract to be the exclusive provider of shapewear, loungewear, sleepwear, and lingerie to a Hollywood A-list actress. So, that's going to be unfolding later this year. And that is completely a game changer for that company. But it's pretty amazing that she even got that contract done, right? And so now she's got to go and, meet that commitment which I feel very confident that, she's going to be able to do because of all the multiple facets of her talent base. And then obviously I, believe she has very high integrity. So, that's a very, very important component as well.
I love that. You hit on everything: execution, integrity, and she's coachable and she has momentum. Those are excellent positions to be in, and that's why you invested in her, which is awesome. Let's break down a little bit of like the operations. How many times did you meet her? When did you meet her? Was it at a networking event? Because I think that's one thing that's kind of nebulous to a lot of entrepreneurs and even angel investors. How do I do this? How do I get to know people? How do I make this work? And then, how many times do I meet with them on average?
It's really interesting, and it's a great, I guess, lesson learned for founders, because I first met her over email because somebody that I shook hands with literally for 1 minute down here in San Diego of months ago, but I remembered who he was. When he emailed me, he introduced her to me, and initially I just thought, oh, it's apparel, it's so competitive. I wasn't interested. And I actually had sent her information over to you because I knew that, you'd been such a big supporter of female founders, here in San Diego. And so then she started to interact with you. And then she set up a phone call with you, which I actually couldn't attend because I had some meeting obligation that day. But then she actually looped back around to me and she said, "Hey, Amy, I talked to Sylvia, but I was wondering, would you like to talk with me too?" And I just thought, And then I started, digging into some of the stuff that she sent over to me. And I just thought, yeah, okay, I'll have a conversation with you, right? She piqued my interest a little bit. And, but then I thought, well, if I'm going to have a call with this person, I'm going to do my homework and, figure out, exactly who she is. And she had sent me information about her. She'd sent me, all the press that had been done on her company about her as a founder, but also she sent me podcast interviews that she had done where I could, listen to, her speak as a person. And, as I was listening to these interviews, I started thinking, I think I like this person. She's got the energy that I look for in a founder. She's, got the passion for what she does. She, sounds like she definitely knows what she's talking about in her industry. And so in some ways, because I was willing to do more homework about her, and she sent me the right information so I could learn about her. I learned a great deal about her before, I even, got to talk to her on the phone. So we spoke on the phone. It further reinforced, what I thought about her and her business. She walked me through some metrics, through her product line. It was interesting because I actually got off the phone and I ordered some of her product for myself. And honestly, a lot of things that I invest in, I don't actually even use the products, or they're not, they're not products that were intended for, me as a consumer. So I don't even use them. But she's one of the few companies that I've invested in where I actively, buy the product. I've, since bought it for my sister as a gift. And so, I do genuinely, like her products. So then she actually came down to San Diego. She participated in your Hera Venture Summit. And that was the first time I met her, was the evening before. I sat down and had dinner with her and her vice president of marketing. And, I knew I was going to like them. So I was probably a little biased going into it, and, talked with them and, had a good time, got to know them. And then, since then, so I made the investment. Since then, she's come down to San Diego again to pitch to your Hera Angels. But all in all, the interesting thing about her, and one thing that I really like, is I probably, and I think this is a little bit unusual, but I hear from her on a weekly basis, just through text message. She just, little things that come up that, she thinks that, I can give her a little bit of advice on, she'll just text me, and then we'll have a quick phone call. And, so in some ways I get to participate a little bit in, what she's doing. But she doesn't, it's not like a drama thing, like it's not like she's having drama every day or anything like that. She's not over relying on me. But I do like that, she keeps in touch with me, and, and the two of us have just kind of found a way to, be in sync with each other, so that I'm here for her if she needs it. If she doesn't, that's fine. 'Cause, she knows what she's doing. She has many other mentors as well. And so I do enjoy the relationship that we have.
Wow, that was a great story. I can have so many threads coming from there. It's wonderful. I think that part of communication is so important in that relationship between the founder and the funder. Is, what does that communication look like? You guys found it. You said, okay, text me whenever you can. When something comes up, let me know. And also you're saying, I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open, because you're constantly communicating with her, that if something does come up, you can quickly text her and say, hey, I have this opportunity, or hey, what about this, or what about that? Very proactive and very positive for that entrepreneur to be as successful as possible. So I love that you found that. What is the communication with the other investors? I mean, the other startups that you have? Is it the same way? Do you communicate them? I think that's just such an important part of that relationship.
It's really interesting, because I think every angel investor is, different, and, we all have different things going on in our lives, and our ability to be a sounding board for, entrepreneurs and founders. It's funny. I probably meet with, or talk to 3 to 4 founders a week. So, my weeks are filled with interactions with founders, which, I very much enjoy. There's, at least a handful of founders who, they reach out to me every week or every other week, just, with a quick, hey, Amy, I was wondering if I could, can we just have a phone call? 'Cause I just have a quick question for you. I just want to run something by you and see what your thoughts are. And so that happens quite a bit. A lot of, founders who are local, I might have a monthly lunch with them, or, every couple of months, we just grab lunch and, talk and, see what's going on. And it's definitely something that I enjoy, that I also think is mutually beneficial, because, as an investor, I think we're always interested in knowing what new innovation is happening out there. What are the trends? What are the entrepreneurs seeing? So I do feel that it's mutually beneficial. And then there are some founders where, they completely know what they're doing. I mean, I invested once in a Series C, and that founder is probably more experienced than I am in the business world. And, he's got his own advisors. It's in an industry that I don't understand very well, but that I 100% believe in supporting. And that's totally fine with me, because if you're running your business well and you're growing it and things are going well, and you don't want to talk to the investor, like I don't have a problem with that, because, when I invested I actually got to know his lead investor because I knew that that was going to be the person who would be advising him. And so that's perfectly fine. I will tell you, I did have an experience recently where I realized the value of getting to know founders personally, and having a connection with them. So something that I really value is, founders who respect the seed investors who put money into their companies very early on and took a risk on them when nobody else was really taking a risk on them. And there are founders out there who really value that, are very loyal to it. And as they go through successive rounds of funding, they do care about protecting, shareholder rights for everybody. Because there is going to come a time where, down the line, other investors will come in and, try to take advantage of everybody. And there are some founders who will say, no, I want to make sure that, all of my investors are treated very fairly. And I think, that also comes from the rapport that we establish, with the founders. And so there is, sometimes it's good to have that rapport.
And that kind of leads me into that a question that I always love to ask you is that how did you get involved with Delta Nutrassentials? I know that you're CEO, and I've found a lot of angel investors sometimes become that CEO of that startup company that they've invested in, and want to kind of know more about what the company does and how that interacts with your other investments. How does that work?
So Delta Nutrassentials is a company that I did make an investment in. I had met the chairman at one of the angel network meetings, and he started to. He had, I guess he'd been watching me for 6 months, and he said, Amy, we'd really love to have you be part of the team. And coincidentally, I don't know if it's ironic or coincidental, but the product, I do use this product every single day. It's a product called Essential 82, and it's a vitamin supplement that I take every single day. And it's because I have a ALDH2 deficiency, which is a genetic condition. It's passed through the generations. About 40% of East Asians have ALDH2 deficiency, and it means that my body can't metabolize acetaldehyde very well, which is a carcinogen. So we tend to suffer from higher rates of cancer and liver cirrhosis and Alzheimer's in the long term, but this vitamin supplement helps our bodies to metabolize acetaldehyde better. And the way you have ALDH2 deficiency is if you turn red when you drink alcohol, there's a very high likelihood that you have this genetic condition. So by coincidence, I have this genetic condition that this product addresses. And that's why I became interested. And when they asked me to join their management team, I took it very seriously. So I have been a CEO of Delta Nutrassentials since about March of last year. We did our relaunch of our product in the day before Thanksgiving. It's been going very well so far. We are continuing to try and grow the product, and it's going to be a long journey, but I don't mind because it's a mission-driven company where about creating awareness about this condition, and then creating products to help address this and any other conditions that we might look at. So it's a mission-driven company. Personally impacts me in a positive way, and but it's a condition that nobody knows about, really. It's not that well known, especially considering that 1 billion people worldwide have this. So acetaldehyde is found not only in alcohol. I mean, you think you could just stop drinking alcohol, but you can't, because it's also in air pollution, cigarette smoke. It's even in coffee. I'm probably not going to give up coffee because I love coffee, but it's also in high sugar foods. So it's literally everywhere. So it's something that we should take seriously, but not very many people in the world know about it yet.
Are you pulling in more angel investors? Are you actively investing right now? How is that going?
I've been active in investing. At some point, I'm going to go through the last, couple that I'm looking at right now and close those deals. And then I'm going to put my portfolio on hold for a while. So I've got I've been investing quite a bit, or I've been very active for the last few years. I'll just say that. And there comes a time sometimes, I think, as an investor where we need to curb our investments a little bit and put them on hold. The last year has been about diversification. So what I started doing was making smaller investments, but with more companies. And the more you get to know founders, just the more great companies and founders that you find. I'm a huge advocate for people supporting our local founders here in our economy. I think that for San Diego to have a vibrant economy, it's essential for us to support entrepreneurship and founders and small businesses, because this is sort of the crux of a lot of our job creation. And so we want people in San Diego to be able to live the American dream, and so it's very important for us to support having an innovative and vibrant economy. And part of it is through mentoring and supporting our local entrepreneurs. But I think sometimes part of it too is supporting the funding of their businesses. And obviously we want to fund the right ones and also get a return on that. But I think when you do that, when you're investing in these businesses, you're also supporting our local economy, and you're making people's dreams come true.
I love that about you. You really dive into what that impact is of your capital, your personal capital, but then saying, hey, you know what? The collective San Diego ecosystem, let's go on it together. So that access to capital is so important in any innovation ecosystem. And then that access to mentors and education. So that mentoring piece too is really important, because it's not just access to capital. As I've heard your stories, it's more of like, hey, you were a mentor first, you got to know them, then you said, hey, I'm going to open up my capital to you. So it started off as a mentoring type of scenario, moving into that investment in kind of opportunity for you and for that entrepreneur.
Yeah, that definitely has happened to me at least a handful of times where, for example, a mentor of mine had started to introduce me to some entrepreneurs because she felt that I could possibly be, a good mentor for them, and they were looking for mentors. And so I, ended up in this, monthly relationship where I was, being a sounding board for them. And then over time, as they, went through their progress and traction and their different fundraising, at some point I would, just say, I'd like to be a part of the next round. And so in some ways, I think it's really fun to mentor, but in some ways it became part of my due diligence process too. It's not a requirement, but it's, it has become part of it.
I love that, because I think that because your thought process of that founder, and a lot of angel investors are, that founder is very important. The integrity of that founder, where they have been working in their industry, that business acumen. The only way you can really figure that out is to have that mentoring relationship, instead of just doing the due diligence of XYZ, ABC. Have you done this contract? What are your background? What's this? What's that in the due diligence process? So I love that.
Yeah, I think it's important for us all to have mentors, right? Like even angel investors, need mentors.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a couple of people, but anything else that kind of stood out? As I said at the beginning, Angela Lee of 37 Angels have been a wonderful mentor to me over the years, and other angel investors here in San Diego as well. But who has been a really great mentor for you? Or if you don't want to call them out, like what are the reasons why that mentor was so important as an angel investor?
It's been so collective. There's the one that I mentioned up in, LA, but, in addition to that, I've made some friends, that were members of, TCA. And, there were times where, they were, investing in something, and then they would actually, invite me to come learn about that company and be a part of, their due diligence. And just watching the way they do due diligence, was a big learning curve for me. But I was having lunch with some of those folks for a while, and just not only did I learn as an angel investor, but I mean, I then learned as an entrepreneur too, because then, I joined Delta Nutrassentials. And so then, I also needed to be mentored as an entrepreneur. And so there have just been so many people, whether they're, representatives of family offices or, just other, longtime angel investors. I mean, even, having coffee with you, Sylvia, has been, monumental for me because, being an angel investor is you have to have, a risk appetite, not just for business, but for your own personal assets, right? And so I think that and I've chosen to invest a higher percentage than what even some sane people would recommend for the average angel investor. And right or wrong or smart or not smart, that's the choice that I chose to make. But there are times where you wake up in the morning and you look at the ceiling and you think, gosh, I've invested this in early stage startup companies. Like I might be crazy, right? And so sometimes you just need to surround yourself with other people who sort of believe in the same strategy and cause, just in order to, say, no, I've made good decisions and, and I'm not crazy, right? Because being an angel investor, sometimes you feel unconventional. So it's real. I think it's so important to have that. I don't want to say support group, but it is a support group.
I think that community of like-minded individuals that have the same type of investment thesis is so important. So how do we break that down? It's like, okay, well, some of your collaborators and support group, let's say, are more impact investors. You work with me, we collaborate, we have coffee, we have meetings, we have pitch sessions so that we have that collective environment of female founders and female funders. And then the other group that you have are all part of that bigger collective, but your guys are all working towards that same goal of increasing the San Diego ecosystem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, if San Diego, so economies that are based on an innovation economy or, that kind of vibrancy, when there's an economic downturn, they survive better. Right. And so it's really important for San Diego to nurture that.
Awesome. So in the last couple of minutes, I want to do some rapid fire questions to you, just to kind of wrap it up. And because you're so brilliant and you've invested in so many companies and you have so much experience in all aspects of this angel investing kind of craziness, but we all love it. What is your favorite angel investing resource?
For me, I mean, it's the networking, but, as a book, I think I mentioned earlier, I read Angel Investing, written by David Rose and Reid Hoffman. I read that early on and, it was pretty helpful. So I definitely recommend that. I think when you join some of the angel networks, like if you join Keiretsu, if you join TCA, then you automatically can become a member of the ACA, which is the Angel Capital Association, and they do monthly webinars that are very educational. You get to be a part of that for free as a benefit of your membership in these angel networks. And so I find that to be helpful sometimes too.
And they have annual meetings too. So those are really great. I've gone to a couple of those. And who has been a major influence in your career? We talked a lot about mentors, but can you think about one person that really has made that impact?
The original founder of AMN Healthcare, I'm sure he played a hand in hiring me there, which resulted in, a long 14-year career there. And, recently I've been able to reconnect, and he continues to, give me good advice just on what I'm doing today. And, I'm very appreciative of that. But I mean, obviously, he was an entrepreneur, right? I mean, he and his wife founded AMN Healthcare, and he's had, exits after that even. So he definitely knows what he's doing. But he helps me to be focused, and that's been really great.
And that long-term collaborator with you who really wants you to succeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just as a leader too, he's got many characteristics that, that I've observed over the years as well.
Wonderful. And the last one is, when I say the word abundance, what comes to mind?
Abundance. So to me, this is the ability to see that the world is a glass of water that's half full versus half empty. And I think having an abundance mindset is so important, because if if you don't have that, you're going to probably live in a lot of fear and anxiety, and that's just not a fruitful or comfortable way to live. And so, to some degree, a person has to be able to have good discernment, make good decisions. But then also, let go of control a little bit, right? And so, you can't control everything, and it's not reasonable to think that you can. And so, in that regard, it's better, I think, to have a positive outlook on things. And even though things don't always go the way you want them to, and negative things will always happen, but the ability to choose to see the world as an abundant place, I think is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I the reason why I always ask this question is because in this angel world, we are living in a risk heavy environment, especially in early stage investment. So that abundance mindset kind of gives us our sanity a little bit, I feel like, in my book.
Right. And I think that, if so I am a spiritual person. I do go to church. I believe in God, and I believe that God wants us to be a good financial steward. And in that regard, it's good to support your community in multiple ways. But really, like, in some ways, we're the beneficiary of that too. It's a blessing for others, but it's a blessing for us as well. And so I do think that it's very helpful to have that aspect is of my thinking and my heart too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for coming onto the show. It has been such a pleasure to learn more about what your investment thesis is, what you find important when you start investing in companies, and just how you collaborate with other angel investors. You are such an asset to the San Diego ecosystem. I'm just thrilled to be part of your professional life.
Thank you, Sylvia. I'm thrilled to have gotten to know so many wonderful people here in the ecosystem. I can't even tell you how fun and vibrant it's been.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy Chang, for being part of the She Invests podcast. We learn so much from you, as many times when we have coffee together, I learned so much from you because you are an inspirational and passionate investor. I love how you say when you went into the investment field, you said, in order to grow, I have to go. I have to learn new things. And you, as an individual angel investor who also relies on your network of other angel groups that you're associated with, like Wharton Angels and Hera Angels and other angel groups, you really believe, and you talked about 3 aspects that I really admire about you. Number 1 is that early stage investment is a risky asset class. Number 2, as a corporate woman coming out of AMN, you really have that perspective of how do you go from corporate womanhood to being a female investor. And number 3 is, what do investors look most at? So let's go back to number 1, is that the investment world is a risky asset class. But to overcome that, Amy has really thought about 5 aspects. 1 is being methodical. Number 2, disciplined. Number 3 is that you make a deliberate choice on taking that risk. But she finds great freedom in that choice of being risky with the money that you have gained in your life. And number 5 is, through studying strategy, she can make the discernment of a good investment. The second focus that she had was, what is a transferable skills from corporate into angel investing? And I love this because 3 aspects came up. 1 is that mergers and acquisitions are typical in the corporate setting, and really thinking about de-risking strategies through that collaboration and partnership between a corporate and an acquisition target is very similar to the startup field. Number 2 is really being focused in on milestone management. We have to manage that investment and manage the founder to be able to get the highest rate of return. And number 3 is really understanding the industry that you are working in as a corporate woman. So really great transferable skills. And the last focus that we had was great is what do angel investors typically look at? And it was broken down into 4 things for Amy really. Is one is that an angel investor has to have the confidence in the founder who can make this happen, make this startup happen with execution and high integrity. Number 2 is that founder needs to be coachable by that angel investor and other mentors that angel investor puts them in front of. Number 3 is some sort of track record. It could be the track record of success or a track record of failure because you learn so much from those failures. And number 4 is who is part of your team and have you created a team that really will help you execute the most efficient way possible. So it was a great inspirational and packed full of information podcast session with Amy Chang, who is an individual angel investor really making an impact in her community. So Amy Chang, thank you so much for being on the podcast. You inspire others to invest. Thank you for listening to and subscribing to the She Invest podcast. Go on over to sheinvest.com for the full show notes for this episode, as well as any resources, websites, and opportunities mentioned during the show. Sign up for the sheinvest.com newsletter to learn about events like our annual Hera Venture Summit during the month of September and our She Invests monthly investor circles. Thank you for your time, talent, and treasure.